Hello and welcome to Property Fundamentals. This is the channel to get property investment information for cities across the UK. First of all, we'll analyse the data. Then, we'll identify the best areas to invest in. In this video, we'll look at Stevenage in 2023. Here we have the mean sold property price by ward for detached properties in Stevenage. The ward of Woodfield is particularly expensive in comparison to the rest. These are the sold prices for the semi-detached properties. The wards towards the north and east of the town are generally the cheapest to invest in. With terraced housing, the wards towards the west are generally much more expensive than those to the east. For flats, the ward of Old Town is particularly expensive. And finally, we have the combined sold prices for all property types. The overall price trend for Stevenage is that the outer wards to the north, west and south are the most expensive to invest in. This is a map of the public transport routes in Stevenage. There is a main train line which passes through the town and a train station towards the centre of it. The A1M motorway passes through the west side of the town. These are the Ofsted ratings for schools in Stevenage. Generally, the schools to the south and north are good. The schools are generally worse to the east of the city. Here are the institutions of higher education in Stevenage. Most of these institutions are located in the south-western part. The dark blue areas show places which have a flooding risk within Stevenage. The northern part of Stevenage has a low flooding risk, but the southern and central areas of Longmeadow, Roebuck and Bedwell have a higher flooding risk. With burglary over a 3-month period, the ward of St Nicholas towards the north of Stevenage is the worst affected. For universal credit, the central ward of Bedwell is the worst affected. Finally, for housing benefit, the wards towards the west of the town generally have the highest percentage of claimants. Now that we've looked at the data, we can analyse it to find the best areas within Stevenage to invest. Before this, if you haven't already, I'd recommend you watch my other video which explains how to interpret this analysis. The map below shows the desirability of the various wards within Stevenage. Data from the housing benefit claimants, universal credit claimants, burglary data, flooding and schools have been collated to give an overall picture of which areas are desirable and which are not. The main point of interest for location desirability within Stevenage is that the central ward of Bedwell is the least desirable by some margin, and the eastern ward of Manor is the most desirable, also by some margin. For the other wards, the desirability rankings are generally similar. There are not many general trends within the desirability data, and therefore it is difficult to draw too many conclusions from the data. The tables below show the quantified results of the average property price for all property types and the desirability ranking. Generally, the wards which are the cheapest are the least desirable, and vice versa. We're looking for exceptions where a desirable area is cheap, as this is an area which may provide a high return on investment over the long term. These cheap but desirable areas will become more obvious when we visualise the data. Here we have a visualisation of the average property prices against location desirability for the wards in Stevenage. The data shows that most wards are as expected, because the least desirable wards are cheap and the most desirable wards are expensive. At the most expensive range of the market, the ward of Manor seems to be a good opportunity for a very desirable area which is not as expensive as the most expensive ward of Woodfield. In the mid-level affordability range, the wards of Shells and Shephall are good options because they have high desirability but they are fairly cheap. Finally, at the bottom end of the market, the ward of Pin Green is a good option. It is one of the cheapest wards, but it has an average level of desirability and therefore may offer some value for future capital growth. Thank you for watching this episode of Property Fundamentals. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you again next time.